Welcome back, everybody, to Positively Trek. I'm Dan Gunther, and with me, of course, as always, is the wonderful Barry DeFord. Barry, are you ready to talk some Lovecraftian horror Star Trek this week?
I certainly am, and I have a technical call to make a little bit later on as well that I'm excited to discuss with you. But in the meantime, you may notice I have a little co-host as well, just over my shoulder. That is Charlotte. She's not my dog, but I'm taking care of her for this period of time. And being such a photogenic little doggo, she decided to park herself right in frame, or semi right in frame. So if you see her, she'll just be mulling about. So this is an impromptu puppy trek that we're now on as well. So yeah, no, I'm very excited, to be honest with you. This episode was a lot of fun. It was interesting, and I feel like we again got some good character development, and also I wouldn't call it character development. I would just say a very disturbing character story.
Yeah, we'll get to that, but man, so, of course, one thing we haven't been doing at the start of these episodes is giving spoiler warnings, because I feel like they're self-evident, but I'm still going to just say it right at the top. Spoilers through and through for the episode. There's no real safe period to be listening to this. If you haven't seen the episode, Season 3, Episode 5, Through the Lens of Time is the episode we're talking about here. So that episode and any episodes leading up to it, we are free with the spoilers.
Yeah.
So with that said, yeah, the one character in this episode where I feel like Strange New Worlds has been honing their skills at creating original characters that you absolutely love, and then just in horrific ways getting rid of them. I'm thinking of Hemmer in Season 1, and now, of course, Gamble here in Season 3. And we haven't had much time to get to know Gamble, but in that time, just like the young, fresh-faced, exuberant, just great character that like you can't help but love. And yeah, we'll talk about what happens to him in this, but boy, oh boy, I didn't like that.
They can write him. They can sure write him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, I've said this before, this is why I could not be a Hollywood writer. I would have my characters that I create, that I love, and I'd be like, I just want them to get along and have a nice day. And
nurtured.
It's not good drama, but
no.
Let's get right into this episode. We've got, first of all, the return of Dr. Roger Corby. The Enterprise is going to be assisting him on an archaeological expedition on this planet, where the natives have not joined the Federation. They're kind of wary of Federation interference and stuff, so they're limiting the landing party, and we have these rules, as well as an observer from this alien group with them on the dig. And the first thing I want to talk about is, with the addition back of Roger Corby, we get all these tensions going on. And with the recent developments from the last episode with Spock and La'an, the love triangle has become a love quadrilateral. I don't know if it's a square or a rectangle or maybe some sort of rhombus, but
a polygon.
It is definitely a four-sided polygon.
Yeah. I don't mind the way they're kind of running this love quadrilateral, as you would say. It's there's always the trope that in every love triangle or different groups of people who love each other, you're going to get these like kind of stereotypical reactions from different people. And I would say they get that out of the way pretty much at the start of this episode, right? You've got An and Chapel walking down the hallway of the Enterprise, and they just kind of out with it. And I kind of like that. Like, it sort of reminds me of the Office Jim Pam relationship. Once they got together, again, spoiler alert, I don't know. Once they get together, they never have a problem that they're going to break up, or there's going to be some kind of thing that's going to take them away from the relationship they have. They face challenges, but their love for each other and their sticking together doesn't become an issue. Now, who knows how this is going to pan out for all of the loving characters involved, but at the very least, it seems like the writers are kind of doing away with some of the more stereotypical, tropey, two women talking about the man kind of thing. They both seem pretty good and relatively diplomatic.
Yeah, and I like that. It's there's a little bit of initial awkwardness when, you know, the subject is broached, but it's very quickly dispelled with Chapel expressing concern for Spock and wondering how he's doing, which is natural, and La'an immediately being like, I don't want to be in this kind. And Chapel's like, oh, no, nothing like that. Don't worry. It's the awkwardness comes in still a little bit between Spock and Chapel.
Yes.
We get that awkward elevator scene, right? Where they're in the turbo lift and Chapel kind of wants to broach the subject and Spock plays the, I don't know what you're talking about kind of thing. And it's like obviously pretty awkward. And Gamble walks in between them all happy. And he's like, oh no, I've come in the middle of something, right?
Yeah. And they set Gamble up really, really well for that, to be that tension breaker. And I kind of felt like at this point, I'm like, oh, cool. So, you know, we're going to have this character who's going to be a little bit of a fish out of water, and we're going to get to relate to him for the rest of the series.
Oh, yeah, right?
Sorry to take us away from the love triangle quickly, but yeah, that they inserted him into that scene, I think, pretty well, and I love the height differential as well, the way they frame that shot in the turbo lift, and who knows why the turbo lift takes the time it does. It always seems to take exactly as long as the scene needs it to, but I guess like in some aspects, I think Spock is probably still dealing with a illogical level of maybe resentment, right? Because I do feel like to some extent Chapel did move pretty quick, but I mean, I don't know. Relationships and the speed at which they take are very relative to the individuals in those relationships and between them. So there really isn't anything I have to say. There's no manual for how long these things need to take, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can tell Spock is uncomfortable with all of this because he makes the decision to uncharacteristically remain aboard the ship and monitor the progress of the landing party from the ship. And Chapel's like, oh, okay, I get it. Unfortunately, the discoveries that are made down there require a bit of a larger landing party, so he does end up joining them, very obviously to his discomfort. So the thing I like about this episode, though, is like we set it up with that, and beyond, they're still very professional, beyond kind of, you know, some shortness when he's talking with Roger Corby and just like kind of the obvious moods that are there. There's nothing that manifests itself. There's no, you know, this isn't like some angsty drama where there's going to be some blowout fight halfway through where they're screaming at each other, right? It's still Starfleet professionals. He's still half Vulcan. Like, it's all very, he's emotional to us seeing him because we know Spock, but it's still very professional. But I liked how they did it subtly with him, you know, sniping a bit at Roger Corby, but more over actual disagreement over scientific procedures and Starfleet regulations for safety, which we will definitely talk about.
Yeah. It's I would say that it's our flavor of Dawson Creek in space, but we don't have the same sort of emotional overload that you tend to get with some of these, or like Korean soap opera dramas or something like that, or whatever, right? But there is that tension, and I think it's handled well. It's written in a way that I think is actually a lot more realistic when you're dealing with professionals, right? People, like we say, like people doing their jobs, right? Corby is there to research archaeology, right? The Starfleet officers are there to assist and, you know, also, I mean, kind of act as ambassadors to this new alien race. What did you think just sort of initially? First of all, they've found another, in terms of scenes and settings, it looks like they found another rock quarry in Ontario.
I would contend that they did not find a new one. We've seen this one a lot.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It is a pretty, that Canadian Shield, it gets a lot of play.
Yeah. If this is a different rock quarry, I would like, why? Just go to the same one. It looks exactly the same.
Yeah, change the filter every time, right? It was a little more red for some. Now it's kind of got that grayscale going for it. Very, very cold lighting, I found.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
they
then,
do a lot with the filters because, when it was Talos 4 in Discovery, I think it had that blue sheen to it. And then when it was Trill in Discovery, it was... They used that turn day into night filter, which never looks convincing at all.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, that was cute. But I guess sort of the outside of the temple itself really gave me some like Valley of the Pharaohs vibes. If people are familiar with that, if you're near a computer, don't do this if you're driving. You can Google what I'm talking about, right? It's sort of the facade of a very stately building carved right out of the side of a mountain, which... Again, it's neat to see the CG and the practical getting put together really, really well. And that soundstage, again, they turned that soundstage into a temple that does a lot of dynamic things really, really well again. So mad props for the set design. I found it unique and interesting. And again, blending the green screen aspects and the practical aspects in ways that I think the actors can actually use with still looking really pretty for us, the viewer.
Before we leave the love thing, I kind of also want to bring up something I forgot to put in the notes, but we also have the return of Beto Ortegas, Melissa Navia's character's brother, who is still filming this Starfleet documentary, basically. And there's still those sparks going between him and Uhura, which get a little bit of play in this episode. There's some moments he's not a Starfleet officer, so there are pretty freaky moments where he's kind of the civilian along for the ride that is in a little over his head. And I loved the bits where Uhura kind of had to talk to him and talk him through things and say, like, this is what we do. This is our thing. Just gonna have to gird yourself and push through it. And I really like that. It was kind of a neat character turn for Uhura, who's the ensign, who's the young character, to be that sort of mentor for another inexperienced person.
We've got relationships in several different stages. And of course, that's how this whole shenanigans get set up, right? Which again, I would say that when things do go badly, that poor alien character gets done dirty pretty fast, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone else is good, but then he gets red shirted in a pretty awful and horrible way. So I find that this episode thematically draws from kind of that Indiana Jones meets The Fifth Element meets Cube. And I don't know if anyone has seen the horror movie Cube, but a quick conversation of the premise is a bunch of people find themselves inadvertently in a cube-shaped room. And basically they find out that it has four doors, and each door has a number. And they start realizing that you have to follow the mathematical algorithm created by the numbers on the doors. And if you are incorrect with the mathematical algorithm, you die a creatively horrifying death. Things spring out, lasers fire at you, you get cut by a giant swinging like mesh thing that turns you into tiny little chunks. It's many different and horrifying ways to die. And I just sort of felt kind of temporally they were in sort of like a cube where the wrong move will get you killed in a very horrible way. So again, I really like kind of the themes that is either harkens to or perhaps the writers are drawing from themselves.
That's interesting. I want to check out that movie.
It's very creative. I mean, I guess the effects maybe aren't quite as good as they once were, and I'm not going to spoil it, but I'll say the ending will be an interesting thing for you.
Interesting. All right. Well, we've got this temple uncovered, and they have to get inside. So the writing says something like blood given freely will give you access. And like Roger Corby whips out a knife and starts walking towards it. And they're like, whoa, dude. Like, slow your roll, dude. Let's think this through. And they're thinking it through involves Chapel walking up to this thing and seeing a thing and sticking her hand in it.
Doing a blood sugar test. Yeah,
and it pricks her finger and drops a drip of blood in, which opens the thing. Luckily, human blood seems to work on this. I don't know. But like, so Gamble does walk up to her and scan her and be like, "Are you okay? Do you feel it? I don't sense it. I don't see anything in your bloodstream, blah, blah, blah." And Nurse Chapel, this trained medical professional, is like, "Don't worry about it. Like, just relax. It's fine." And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, at least, like, okay, he did say there's nothing in your bloodstream, but she didn't seem concerned about getting a scan or anything. Like, at least a tetanus shot or something, right? Like,
first thing I thought about was tetanus. I was just like, you're gonna get tetanus, lady. Like, what's your damage?
Or whatever the alien equivalent of that is on this planet, which might be worse, you know?
Well, yeah. No, and I guess that's the thing is, like, this temple, as we move on further, we realize it is capable of some pretty horrifying stuff. And I feel like having Chapel's DNA now, kind of like having your data in our world, right? Like,
yeah,
I feel like something can be done with that, and I'll just leave it there for now. But yeah, like, her DNA is now just there, and you're right, she really shrugs it off like, you know, it's all good. But you know,
yeah.
I don't know. I find whenever I'm volunteering or something like that, you know, say we're cleaning a field or around a building, I'm always actually quite concerned about coming across a hypodermic needle or something like that. You know, like, you really need to be careful out there, folks.
Absolutely.
Getting poked by stuff ain't good. So yeah, Nurse Chapel is not setting a good example. Kids, if you're watching, don't let anything stab you.
Don't stick your hands into alien devices.
Yeah, there you go. Or down like holes or anything, right?
Yeah, definitely. So this brings us into a wider conversation, I think, about Starfleet safety procedures in general, which, you know, we've joked about in the past, and, you know, they beam down with very, like landing parties never beam down with food or supplies or anything like that. And I'm like, that's the one thing Enterprise did well, is they always landed with a fully stocked shuttle pod at least.
Yeah.
But, you know, beam down in our pajama uniforms with a phaser, a tricorder, maybe a flashlight. The modern Treks give us a little bit more, but it's still pretty lax. That said, they're exploring this chamber. They come across a couple of corpses, a couple of dead bodies, former grave robbers, it looks like, basically. And Spock cites a Starfleet safety procedure, which is, you know, the threat level of this has heightened. We're out of communication with the ship while we're inside the building. Starfleet protocol says we leave the building, contact the ship, and alert them of the danger. The door is like 10 yards away. This ignites this huge debate about, like, oh, but the scientific discoveries we could find here are huge. We should ignore that and press on. And I'm like, it takes 5 minutes. Like,
step out the door.
Yeah, step out the door, call the ship, let them know. Like, that's all Spock said. And yet this huge debate has to happen. And eventually they do decide to press on to, you know, horrible effect in just a few moments. Like, Starfleet safety procedures, even if they're not that stringent, exist for a reason. And if you can't even follow those, like, what are we doing here?
that was definitely, I would say, probably the thinnest of the aspects of this story. Was they should have put them down the hole a little more, or made it a little more difficult, because you are right. Like, they could have, like, literally cartwheeled back out and not have gotten dizzy.
Yeah.
and just a real quick, Jade, this is what's happening, blah, blah, blah. And then 10-4, and then back we go. Right.
Yeah.
Like, even like my mom lives alone right now. And entertainingly, she will send her neighbor a text if she has a bath, just in case she can't get out of the tub again, because, you know, she's getting older and stuff. And so, but
that's smart.
Just a little bit of protocol, right? So, like, if you don't hear back from me in 15 minutes, break down my door and check, right? Like,
yeah,
that's okay, right? Or actually, I think her neighbor probably has a key, you know, and they can just come in and make sure she's okay. And I think that's actually super prudent. And
absolutely,
if we take time to dot our I's and cross our T's, people won't be typically as easily possessed by horrifying history demons.
Yeah. Now, that said, it occurs to me that had they just turned around and walked out the door, unless Chapel was leading, I guess one of our crew members might have been zapped and and killed with that thing. But that's just luck at that point, basically. So yeah.
Maybe we're quibbling over something, but at the same time, I guess really what it boils down to is that was a slightly hollower, or I guess thinner little piece of the story that could have been maybe dealt with a little more, or just keep that conversation out and keep the story going, right? Why bring it up if you're going to basically shut it down immediately and somewhat inexplicably?
Yeah. As always, Positively Trek is brought to you by its Patreon supporters, including Joyce Mirren, Brandy Jacala, Christina DeClercq-Zalagi, John Guppy, Out of Memory, Patrick Carlin, and Ricky Long. If you'd like to support the podcast, visit patreon.com/positivelytrek. You can join at any level and enjoy early access to episodes, ad-free episodes, episode shoutouts, executive producer credits, and more. Again, that's patreon.com/positivelytrek. Thank you so much to those of you supporting us. We truly do appreciate it. And now, back to the show. So, Ensign Gamble, this is where we get to this, because so these alien bodies, they have a little satchel. They were obviously kind of not grave robbing, I guess. This is not a mausoleum, but they were raiding this archaeological site and stealing artifacts. And one of them was this little orb, and Gamble grabs it and looks at it intently. It starts glowing red and starts getting brighter, and he brings it closer to his face to look at it, and it explodes. And I can't remember the exact wording that Mbenga used, but he said your ocular orbs were expelled from your cranium, basically.
Yeah.
It's pretty horrific. His face is burned. He's lost his eyes. At this point, the door wouldn't have destroyed them, because they do run out and then beam back up to the ship at that point, right? So, yeah, that could have been prevented, or at least mitigated or pushed off or something, right? If they'd have followed procedure. This might have still happened, but you wouldn't have rushed in so quickly, I guess, maybe. But Ensign Gamble, my God, I love this character so much. And jumping around this episode for what's revealed towards the end, we lost him here. He's gone. Yeah. He's no longer, the doctor scans him. There's no brain activity, but he's responsive and talking, and it makes no sense. And it turns out this whole time he was dead, and this ancient alien prisoner had possessed him, basically.
Is this zombie adjacent? Is my kind of interesting question here.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like zombie has with it a shambling aspect of undeadness. I feel like this is more
possession
of a meat puppet at this point.
Meat puppet. Yeah, Gamble is now a meat puppet. I guess, once again, the curiosity, this kind of reminds me of like sort of Temple of Doom level bad decisions, right? If something is glowing and moving and looking like it could become volatile, don't bring it closer to your face, kids. Move it away. I remember in junior high school, one of my classmates came back to school and he had no hair, no eyebrows, and clearly on his cheeks and tip of his nose and chin and his lips were all like showed signs of pretty heavy burns. And he actually had to wear little cotton swabby things with polysporin or something on it for a number of days, because he and his friends were playing with a gasoline filled bucket, and he decided to see what would happen if he set it on fire. And it literally blew up in his face because he was standing over it. And he said the first match I dropped in went out because it hit the liquid. Yeah. He's like, the second one caught the fumes. And it was
because you've got a huge cloud of fumes in front of you. That's what burns.
Yeah. And he got hurt. Like hurt. I mean, his eyebrows grew back and everything else. But no, like he was actually really lucky. Apparently he shut his eyes in the nick of time. Because he had no eyelashes either.
Wow.
Yeah, no, he didn't. As far as I recall, maybe he did have eyeglasses because he wore glasses. Those might have been what saved his eyes ultimately. But no, for Gamble again, it's an extremely unfortunate and I would say like early Discovery level death. Mm-hmm. Right, he gets rippered. I would say, right, if you really think about it, he gets offed quickly, and then we are left with something very dark and scary. Something that disturbs, because you're right, he was so sweet and so fresh-faced and eager, and now he's a dead person being controlled by a demon.
Yeah. And this entity that's controlling him uses that relationship between him and Mbenga a number of times in this episode. And by the time he's doing it at the very end, I think we as the audience are even more horrified when he switches to that, what's going on? What's happening to me? And you know by that point that this is an act. And it's just, it's so much more horrific at that point, especially when the camera goes back to Mbenga and he still believes. He still believes that Gamble's alive in there somewhere. And oh, man, that was brutal.
We've explored a lot more of Mbenga's dark side once again, right? I feel like seeing how Mbenga has reacted to Gamble in this short time we've had Gamble around, I feel like Mbenga's, again, sweet and nurturing side that he has just had its knees knocked out from under it. Because I think he was kind of like, oh, I can take this young officer under my wing and I can do blah, blah, blah. And then, he all he gets at the end of this is basically a Star Trek version of Sam Neill from Event Horizon. For those of you who haven't seen that, again, spoiler alert, Sam Neill's character in that movie gouges his own eyes out, but spends his time with no eyes going around terrorizing people in that movie. So, and he's possessed by the devil. So it's very similar beats in that respect. Not quite as a sweet character turned evil, but more of like the leader turned evil in a lot of ways. So yeah, I as much as I say Gamble got done dirty, I do actually feel like something's got to go right for Mbenga pretty soon here, because he's suffering a lot. Yeah,
I feel so bad for Mbenga in this one, and the point is driven home a couple of times in the episode too, that you know, this was a temporary assignment for Gamble, but when Chapel returned, he was supposed to leave, but Mbenga pulled some strings and got him to stay on the ship. He's the one that like recommended him for landing party duty. Like that weighs so heavily on him at this point. I can't imagine what he must be going through.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, it's similar to what Pike has lost too, right? I mean, we've got some of these leadership level characters who are having to, I guess, suffer through choices they make that aren't necessarily bad. Like, I would have said, yeah, no, great, an archaeological expedition? Sure, go look at some cool artifacts and stuff. I'm not expecting you to get possessed by a demon grenade, right?
Speaking of things that Pike has lost, or potentially, we should talk a bit about Captain Battelle, because she has an interesting turn in this episode where she walks into sickbay for some kind of treatment, and as soon as she sees Gamble, she just like something takes her over and she starts trying to beat the crap out of him. And they have this knockdown, drag out fight. So something Gorn within her has like an ancient relationship to this whatever Gamble is, right? That was interesting.
Well, we're setting something up here. Like there's this will not, if it does get ignored, I will be confused and frustrated, because we've just sort of seen the Gorn kind of finish, or seemingly finish, their arc just now, at the start of this season. And, obviously Batelle's still dealing with her infection, I guess we could call it, infestation, whatever you want to say. And for her to react so viscerally and so immediately, it does indicate that we're dealing with a power much more ancient. And, once again, with the previous sort of potentially Q related episode we've just had, I feel like Strange New Worlds is kind of setting some things up here for some kind of maybe some temporal adventures, maybe something that's going to harken back to more ancient and, maybe Star Trek lore related deeper stuff, or maybe they're going to build something new out of this, right? Maybe we're going to see a new threat that's going to have a bit of a through line through the rest of this series.
Yeah, definitely.
Something evil this way comes.
I'm excited for it. I think Battelle plays this really interestingly. That must have been kind of a fun thing to do. I mean, a lot of the fighting obviously are stunt doubles here, but she got to do some stuff as Captain Battelle. I think that don't involve sitting in a courtroom or convalescing on a bed. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I do appreciate that quite a bit. She has spent a lot of time hurt and recovering, so it's nice to see her get up on her feet.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we should talk a little bit about this kind of alternate dimension puzzle that the Enterprise landing party and Corby and Beto Ortegas have to work their way through, which is interesting. They all kind of walk into this next chamber, but they all get separated as they go through the door into groups of 2 in different quantum realities, basically different dimensional planes, but still occupying the same space. That was a really fun Star Trek puzzle to work. It felt very video game-esque to me, where you have to assemble the clues and figure the things out. And Spock, for example, seeing an injury on his hand that he's like, I do not recall getting this injury. And then later on scraping his hand under the table and realizing, oh, effect precedes cause in this strange thing. And, the whole, we have to walk across this bridge that isn't there right now, but in order to turn on the thing to activate the bridge, which is over there, we have to have crossed it. So there's a leap of faith right there, right? Some really cool moments.
The block of space-time that we live in is just that, right? And if you think about it, and I hope I don't get too hoofy-foofy here with people, and that's a new term I've just come up with just now. We've already, all of us, everyone listening, you and me, everything, if you think about space-time as a big block, we have all been born, we are all having this conversation, and we have all passed away. It's our brains that are actually doing the perceiving right now of time and space and everything else. And if you get into Richard Feynman and Albert Einstein, that's actually basically what they believe. And I think Alan Moore did a really good job of describing this one time, where basically your life is a filament that moves through this block of space-time, but our brains perceive it in this kind of linear, statically moving fashion. We can't go back and we can't go faster. We can just go at the speed we're at, but it's all perception, right? Time is really much a perceptive thing. And so for them to realize that they're all actually in the same room still, no one's moved. It's just now they're at a different time. I think that's interesting. Actually, in the current or near to current Fantastic Four comic books, and I feel like with the new movie coming out, this bears mention. The 4 of them, the Fantastic Four, have all been sent by Doctor Doom to different historical periods on the Earth. And the way they're communicating with each other is they've found the same rock, knowing it's going to be in the same place, and they're marking it in ways that, and receiving marks in ways that they know the others would be able to understand. And so it's a really cool way of communicating with one another. And it kind of harkens me to a dream I have. And maybe this is sort of nostalgic or weird or silly, but those cave paintings where individuals from hundreds of thousands of years ago have put their hand and they've done the dusting, and I want to put my hand there one day. I would love to do that, just to connect with someone from hundreds of thousands of years ago. I know time, but time is really all that separates us. And that is something I'd love to, I think those caves are in France or something like that. Or there's, I think, in the southern United States. I'd really love to do that. Anyway, I've gone off on a tangent.
Unfortunately, I know the ones in France are no longer, their humans are not allowed in them anymore.
Yeah, we're wrecking it, probably.
Yeah, just from breathing and stuff. Yeah. It's getting destroyed. But they've made a complete exact replica of them. millimeter by millimeter that you can visit, which is interesting, but would lack that. I feel like when Picard's touching the Phoenix, right, in First Contact, it would lack that direct connection.
Yeah.
Of course, that's only, a couple hundred years, not, hundreds of thousands, but yeah.
But still, I think the concept of this is really fascinating because we're kind of dealing with time in this series as it is, right? Pike knows he's going to get really, really hurt in the future. And he knows that time reality is already there. It already exists. He just has to make it there. And knowing that is kind of freaky. And we know that this series is going to end. We already know when, but we just have to get there first. So using time as sort of the main factor of this puzzle is, for me, really, really fascinating. That statue, though, that I think it's Lon, who it's her little, it's Lon and sorry, I'm gonna pop out of the conversation. It's Lon and Chapel, right? No, yeah. That Lon and Chapel see. I found that really freaky. It just really freaked me out. And where does it go? Because it's not there in the other places. Like, does it get up and walk away?
Ooh, she does say there's a life sign reading in it. And they don't really approach that anymore. Like, because there's it's in Spock, where Spock and Corby are, is where like the tank with all of these little orbs are that hold all these life forms. So that's not the life form reading she's getting. And they don't really go anywhere with that, which is like, I kind of like that. Like, not every little thing that you discover is going to be germane to the plot you're trying to do. It's this weird place that we don't know anything about. I love that.
I mean, it opens the door for a lot more exploration if they want, even in another series at some point. I just feel like, there's a whole fruit tree that we can pick from now.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the end of this life form that's possessed Gamble, he's making one more play to appeal to Mbenga, and it seems to be working. However, he gets shot in the back by, I think it's Pelia.
Yes.
Who forces this entity out of him, and Scotty captures it in the orb thing and throws it up in the air and beams it away. And they said, "Where did you send him?" "Nowhere." So this thing's in the transporter buffer of the Enterprise now.
Gee.
Yeah. And we get that like zoom in on the control panel that just, and it shifts and has an alien language and then shifts back. And you're like, crap.
It's in the pattern buffer. And again, I like that. Scotty will use that again one day. Yeah.
No, I know what you mean though, with the Janolan and the staying in the pattern buffer thing.
Pelia knows what to do, and I think that's it. And it's very similar to what Batel's Gorn side knew what to do, is when these things, whatever they are, appear, there's no negotiating. There's no sentimentality. Kill it now.
Yeah. I loved, by the way, speaking of Pelia, this is kind of my just little bits that I loved about the episode thing. At the very end in the briefing room where they're talking about, was that evil? What was that? And Pike's like, well, there's no good and evil are relative terms and blah, blah, blah. And Pelia's like, no, there is evil in this galaxy as sure as there is good. And she goes on this like, and whatever that was, blah, 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 and does this monologue that's like chilling, and it's zooming in on her. And then at the end, she's like, turns to Beto, would you like that again for the camera? He's like, no, I'm good. Well, suit yourself.
Yeah. I love that. How, she's correct, but also, totally just mugging for the meta camera that's in the shot too. I think that's again a self-awareness that this show has held on to pretty much all the way through. So,
and just the perfect shattering of tension at the end there. Like just inspired writing and acting in that scene, just to just like tension, shatter,
snap. It's an episode, I think, that again is built well and paced well.
Well, my bring out the dead round for this, I think, are is just how much I love Pelia in this. One other little thing that popped into my head was when they're exploring this place, Beto sends his little camera on ahead to scout in the next room. Why is that not part of like Starfleet standard equipment? Like, that seems like a great idea.
I mean, it's already being used in military.
Right. This was my thinking. Absolutely.
There's so many instances where, yeah, if you're a force fighting, you're maybe hiding in a building or in a forest or whatever. Yeah. You're not going to encounter a soldier first. The little drone's going to come around and be like, "Hello," right? That's happened a number of times at this point. So, yeah, I do feel like Starfleet might want to invest, shall we say?
And then the last thing, of course, is just the visual effects continue to be astounding. Mm-hmm. I loved the Enterprise beaming the deflector beams down to the planet and uncovering this facade. All of that was just gorgeous.
Yeah. They've, like I said, the marrying of practical and CG effects has also, there's a lot of attention to detail, and they're not skimping on that. I mean, I think they've had to do what one would consider skimping by filming the same rock quarry over and over again. But yeah, with regard to that, I think that we have a lot of attention to detail. Like I said, they're using the space, I guess is the best way to put it, and they're using it well. And the writers are clearly firing on all cylinders here. I've really enjoyed this season, so far. It's been pretty much all killer, no filler.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we may joke about the rock quarry and stuff, but I love any time they go on location. Like, it adds that extra dimension to it that is so much fun.
Any person can tell when they're on set versus when they're on location. And yeah, it's nice to get them out and about. I'm sure the actors like the change too, right? Getting out, get some fresh air. But again, as an ensemble, and again, it's sad that Gamble is possibly gone. I mean, I do feel like this entity knows his ins and outs. Could come back.
Yeah. I hope he's like safely buried in space or something. I don't know. Gone away. Don't use his body again. I'd love for the actor to get work, but that's terrifying.
Yeah, exactly.
Last thing, I guess, I really want one of those landing party jackets, but that's neither here nor there. Those are gorgeous.
Was thinking the same thing. I was like, darn, I think that would look pretty good.
Yeah.
Costuming. Good job, guys.
Definitely. Well, I think that wraps us up on Through the Lens of Time. I think it's no secret I loved this episode. I really, really enjoyed it. So another winner, I think, for season 3. But if you'd like to join the conversation, check us out on Facebook. We have our Positively Trek discussion group there. And check out Kurtratz Productions YouTube channel. I'll be talking about this live on Saturday with Brandy Jackala and anyone else who wants to join. So join us there. And thank you all for joining us here. So until next time, as always, stay positive. Positively Trek is produced and edited by me, Dan Gunther, and co-produced by Barry DeFord on Treaty 8 territory, the home of the Beaver, Cree, Dene, and Métis people, whose histories, languages, and cultures we respect. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations.
Awesome possum. I just have to go check on my cat. He might have fallen out the window. I just heard a big thump.
Oh, God.
He's such a doorknob. Just a second.